Hi, welcome to a continuing session of CCAC Search Committee course on the responsibilities and function of the hiring administrator and committee chair, and also a review of the forms used in the hiring process. I'm Valerie Keebler. It's good to talk to you again. This session builds upon information shared in the general course. At the end of this session, the participants will understand the responsibilities of the hiring administrator and/or the committee chair, become familiar with the processes and timelines, and also review the forms that are used in the process. It should be noted that the title of hiring administrator is given to the individual who will make the final decision in the hiring process. Typically, this is the supervisor of the listed position. In a case of a one-stage hiring process, the hiring administrator is the only person involved in the leadership of the team. However, when a two-stage hiring process is required for the position, a committee chair functions as the hiring administrator during the first stage of the process. In cases for an AFT search, this position is called the coordinating dean. But to simplify the wording for this session, the term hiring administrator is going to be used to identify both the hiring administrator, the committee chair, and the coordinating dean. Within the hiring guidelines packet, Section 5 includes a chart of responsibilities. This section is on pages 10 and 11, and it's also identified as Document B in the packet. We're going to refer to this chart as we go through the hiring administrator's participation in the process. If you want to pause the video and retrieve the document, you can do so now. Starting at the top of the chart on Section 5 is responsibility number 1, which is the creation of a request for a recruitment form. This is done by the hiring administrator, and then once they've received all the approvals necessary to post the job, the hiring administrator is encouraged to contact HR with the information. HR will complete the online RFRs through ccacjobs.com. Responsibility 2 is the creation of a diverse search committee. The hiring administrator notifies both the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and Human Resources on who the committee members will be. Ideally, this list of members can be communicated when the RFR is provided. This will assist in moving the search forward in a timely manner. The policy requires a minimum of 5 people for a full-time and regular part-time position vacancy. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion reviews the composition of the committee and advises the hiring administrator of the status. Please note that full-time AFT searches shall be formed per the CBA. Responsibility number 5, the first search committee meeting and training. The hiring administrator should inquire about the training required for the identified committee members. Any members who have not attended a training session since June of 2014 will need to be scheduled for training with HR and OIDI. This can be done prior to the first meeting of the committee. After all members have attended training, the full committee discusses expectation and timelines, establishes criteria based on the job description and requirements of the position, and works on interview questions. A note about the training: we have also created a video set that can be used to either supplement or augment the training that's required to allow a speedier process for the training process. If you need access, or any of your committee members need access to the videos, please have them contact me at extension 3002 or vkeebler, Keibler, at ccac.edu. Thanks. Responsibility number 6, review of online applications for all candidates. All applicants must be on file using the online application held in ccacjobs.com. When applying for a teaching position, the candidate also has to electronically attach a copy of their transcripts, etc. The hiring administrator reminds all members to review all applicants and any other policy requirements. The hiring administrator may guide the committee as needed to create a manageable number of candidates for the initial interviews. The committee should agree on including or not including a first round interview. Once a list of candidates has been agreed upon, if the position requires testing, the hiring administrator notifies HR of the list of candidates who need to be tested. HR will then take over the process, contact the applicants in a very timely fashion, and advise the hiring administrator when the testing is completed and the status of the applicants. Responsibility number 8. The hiring administrator will help guide the committee to form a list of questions for each interview round. The hiring administrator will submit the list of proposed questions to the Director of HR for review and approval prior to commencing the scheduled round. These questions will also be forwarded to Sumana at the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for her review. She will be looking for 1 to 2 questions which specifically address the topics of diversity as is appropriate for the job position listed. The hiring administrator should remind all members that during all interview stages, only predefined and follow-up questions that direct result from the candidate responses will be asked. Asking questions like, "Can you explain more about that situation?" or "Can you tell me more about that?" would be appropriate follow-up questions which would expand on their answers but not have a new question being asked. Responsibility number 9. During the final interviews, the hiring administrator will collect the background check authorization forms, licenses, and/or certifications and required signatures of the candidates. These forms will be retained by the hiring administrator and submitted to HR with the submittal paperwork. The background check form has blanks which the candidate needs to complete and sign on the back of the form. It's encouraged that the hiring administrator gives this form to every person that comes in for the face-to-face interviews. Even though you will only need this form to be completed by the final candidate, if you collect them during the face-to-face interviews, you will have the signatures needed to be able to push the process forward. Responsibility number 10. The hiring administrator schedules interviews and supervises the interviewing according to the processes outlined in the hiring policy. During telephone interviews, the hiring administrator creates 1 applicant screening form per candidate. During the face-to-face interviews, the hiring administrator assures that each committee member completes and submits an applicant screening form per candidate. The hiring administrator records the results of the rounds by notifying HR of the names of the interviewees, the dates when the interviews were completed, and who the finalist is. They also need to note any names of no-shows or cancellations. Responsibility number 11. The search packet, personnel action request, applicant screening forms. When the finalist is selected, contact HR to fill out the search file personal action request form, which is for benefit positions only. These forms are included in the hiring guidelines packet. However, they're included for informational purposes only, to show the information that HR needs. The personnel action request form is also completed by HR and has been included to advise the hiring administrator of the information that HR needs. The position search file checklist is a listing of items that need to be submitted. The letter that is written by the hiring administrator will be addressed to the president of the college. However, the letter will be given to HR with the packet. Responsibility number 12, the reference check. The reference check is done by the hiring administrator. At least 2 of the references need to be obtained and documented in the personal action request packet. The hiring administrator should confirm that the references are professional, typically a former employer, a supervisor, a colleague, client, vendor, professor within their field, or someone in a position of responsibility that can judge the person's work experience, professionalism, and reliability. If professional references are not provided on the application, it's strongly recommended that the professional references be requested during the in-person interviews in lieu of references from a friend or relative. The reference check is required before the final process to consider hiring, and so the hiring can be completed. Here's the reference check form that we have. This is a supplemental form that they can add in additional references, and you can use this form to complete your reference check. Thank you so much for volunteering and your willingness to serve on a search committee. The functions that are required by the hiring administrators and committee chairs and coordinating deans during the hiring search are varied and should be all documented within this checklist. If you have any questions on the process, please contact the Director of HR and get any clarification. The search committee members have been directed during their training to send any questions that they have on either the process or specific questions that they have maybe regarding how to proceed on particular application. They've been asked to send those questions to you to coordinate them. So any questions that you get, please feel free to include those with your questions to the Director of HR. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.